Now let's talk about Nigeria's carbon market. It's a system for buying and selling carbon credits to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the market is intended to help the country meet its climate change goals and expand its tax base. Currently, Nigeria receives approximately $250 million annually, underscoring the need to boost both demand and supply to unlock additional funds. The scope of Nigeria's carbon market encompasses various sectors. Renewable energy is what comes to the mind first, but agriculture is also part of it. Let's talk more about this with the founder and chief executive officer of NetZens Sustainability Limited, Dr. Sadiq Sani. Dr. Sani joins us from our Abuja studio. Dr. Sani, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ini. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So we talk about climate change, emissions, and all of that. Now we're discussing Nigeria's carbon market. And I just wonder how much or how many Nigerians you think are really conscious of, the fact that there's a carbon market, there's something about emissions and all.
The consciousness in terms of the emission reduction in Nigeria is really high. And the Nigerian government, the private sector, civil society are actively working hard towards ensuring that we reduce the amount of emission in the country, and then we contribute to the ongoing effort globally towards climate change. And then furthermore as well, if we look at NetZens, for example, we have built the first of a kind innovative technology, which we call closed carbon. So closed carbon is a technology that tracks, that monitors, and also manage carbon in real time and on site. And the furthermore as well is it brings incentives in form of carbon credit to the facilities that are actively reducing emission. And that is why when you look at the effort in terms of the federal government launching our technology sometime in August last year, specifically launched by the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, represented by the Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology. The technology has been widely accepted across the country and beyond. And then you can also see what we are actually doing with environmental health, ECON in Nigeria, and also AMAC, which we are actively working together to track emission in Abuja and see how we can cut across the other part of the country. So there's a lot of effort ongoing across the country, collaboratively to see how we can actively reduce emission in real time.
Yeah, so I mean, I like to connect to everyday life and everyday work when we talk about emissions reduction, the goals and the consciousness. You're working with the government to ensure this happens. Where is it? Who are those who are participating? How is this being practiced every day, on the job, at home and all that? I guess that's what will make it effective to reach this goal.
Yeah, so if we look at the goals in terms of what the government and also NetZens we've actively been doing, together, and also in terms of NetZens projects, we have condition, reduction, which by 2030, there is a certain amount of emission that would have to be reduced by facilities across the country. And also we also have the unconditional reduction as well, which also supports overall emission reduction across the country. And then also we've seen a lot of support in terms of the federal government, the National Council on Climate Change, the establishment, to drive, climate action in the country. And that we've also seen, the Nigerians' contribution, the NDC, towards also reducing emission and also, the ensuring that the Paris Agreement is adequately being carried out. Because if we look at overall last year, the amount of, emission or in terms of the temperature rise, going, above, 1.5, and then, and that is 2025, so it's something that, the goal of the country or the goal, of the government, including, companies like NetZens, is to see how we can collectively, be able to at least, eradicate, this climate change. And that is one of the major goals, that is a major goal of NetZens, to eradicate, climate change. However, when we look at the grassroots, there are certain issues in terms of individuals, end users being able to understand what emission reduction is all about or what climate action is all about. And this is one of the reasons why, when you look at the closed carbon technology we have built, we have what we call the closed carbon reduction tool. The closed carbon reduction tool is an incentive driven by NextZens and given to facilities that are actively reducing emission. And at the end, we are not just leaving you with the carbon credit or the carbon incentive you have, but you can monetize that carbon credit or in the form of carbon incentive on closed carbon, to get some monetary value, in real time. And then from there, the end users as well will be able to buy into the CCRT, which is a closed carbon reduction tool, and also have a say in the way emission is actually being reduced, in the country. And at the end of the day, you can actually see how your investment into the CCRT can yield profit overall to every end user in the country. And then we've also seen in terms of the awareness from NextZens, the training across government organizations like ERCON, the active ongoing activities with AMAC, across Abuja, to see how we can support the goal of NextZens towards eradicating climate change, including the goal of the government in terms of contributing to the Paris Agreement and also the Nigeria's nationally determined contribution.
I believe that Nigerians will be very much interested in that, how to monetize that carbon incentive. How does that work? We know, for instance, in Lagos State, there's a similar program that's going on. So how does this work?
Thank you, Ini. So what we have done in terms of the incentive coming from NextZens is we are working with both the state government, the federal government, to provide the platform, the technology in which your carbon incentive or your carbon credit can be monetized in real time. So what happened is, if you have a form of a carbon credit, the carbon credit is converted into the closed carbon reduction tool, which is a CCRT. The CCRT comes in the form of monetary value, which again, you can get on the closed carbon platform in real time. And then the end users as well will be able to buy into the CCRT and see how they can actually get some return in their investment. So what NextZens is doing is to have the platform in which the state government, the federal government, the private entities can actually log in what they have in terms of the emission reduction, which we collect actively from our devices. So taking back, when we look at the value chain, we have our devices which we have built, embedded systems, 6 devices which we install in facilities to get the data in real time, because we've seen issues in terms of falsifying data emission, transparency, these are major problems, we have seen auditability issues when it comes to the actual emission. And this is what we have built our devices for, to get the data in real time, which is available on our blockchain technology, supported by the NextZens AI, in which it does error detection, error correction, to ensure that any form of falsifying data is actively mitigated, because no individual can add or remove data that has been collected from the devices. It goes to the blockchain we have, and automatically every facility would actually see the amount of emission it has in real time. So in terms of the government, the state government, we walk into the facilities, we install our devices, and then the magic starts from there. At the end of the day, depending on how much of emission you have reduced, it gets converted into the CCRT. From the CCRT, automatically, you can monetize that emission in real time. And then furthermore, the end users can also now have access to the CCRT, in which they can buy into it, have a say towards what every facility or what every government is doing in terms of the emission reduction. So for us at NextZens is to provide the technology in which the state government, in which the federal government and every other facilities in the country can use to ensure that you have a much more better transparency, auditability, fault tolerance, and also trust in the emission data coming across your facility or overall in the country. And that is why when you look at coast carbon, it has been termed, for example, as the carbon registry. And in Nigeria, you can term it as the Nigerian carbon registry because we're cutting across the other countries. NESENS is in Ghana. In April, we're starting, fully in Ghana. And then we are also moving across the entire countries because in Africa and globally, because our goal is to eradicate, climate change. So providing that technology that would ensure that the state government, for example, we're already speaking with Lagos government, we're also speaking with a lot of other government to see how we can actually help them with our devices, both the hardware, the software platform, to see how we can actively eradicate this, emission and provide a much more better informed decision when it comes to the investment coming into the climate, change overall.
All right, Dr. Sadiq Sani, founder and chief executive officer of NetSense Sustainability Limited. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ini.